Building a team can lead to a lot of difficult choices, and this video will show how you can easily take advantage of a strong team composition by using this simple approach. Team building in Genshin can be a tough process, especially of how limited resources are, but most important of all, it's just a game and a lot of people simply care to have fun, enjoy the characters, and see what next part of the story gets unfolded in coming updates. So it only makes sense to approach team compositions from the same perspective, something that works but it's also not complicated enough so anyone can have fun doing it. And building a team that's based around two characters can be one of the ways of doing it, since it gives you a general idea of what you're trying to accomplish. In fact, if you think about it, one of the most popular ways of building a team, even to this day, is focusing your efforts around one character and then using the other three as your support. And this is sometimes called the hyper carry strategy, where one character essentially deals the majority of damage in the party. That's usually achievable because of how strong their talents are, so equipping them with best artifacts and weapons, and also raising their level and talents is a good way to simply beat up your enemies with one powerful team member. On the other hand, you also have endgame teams that are usually based around swapping strategy, where quick bursts of damage, combined with passives and reactions, bring out the most damage and are perfect for places like the Spiral Abyss. But the slight problem here is that it kinda requires you to have all characters in the party to have decent equipment and also synergize between each other whenever you make the swap. So when you focus on just two characters and make a duo or a tag team of them, you're basically falling somewhere between a hyper carry and a swap team strategy, which ends up as not as complicated or resource intensive enough, but also focuses all damage on one or two characters instead. Now the only question remains, how exactly do you go about building an initial team out of two characters? Probably the first and best thing to do when making a team out of two initial characters is to examine just how well their abilities complement each other. And a good way of doing this without overwhelming yourself with options is to, of course, base a decision on what kind of elemental reactions these two characters will produce. So someone like Diluc can easily go into a tag team formation together with Xingqiu, and besides abilities and elemental reactions, it's also important to take a look at equipment. For example, if Xingqiu is being used in the duo, he's not actually great for long sustained damage because of how less favorable his normal attacks are compared to Diluc, which makes him best suited for a support damage dealer role. So if you equip him with the full Noblesse Oblige set, you're not only going to be providing one of the most powerful bursts, but also add additional attack to every swing Diluc is going to be making, which actually could be any other weapon user that has good damage multipliers on their normal attacks, so that they can fully utilize the attack bonus you get from Xingqiu's Noblesse buff. And while ideally one of your tag team partners leads with damage, the other one should focus on providing enough fuel for elemental reactions, and if possible, provide additional buffs like using artifact set bonuses or a few of the exceptional weapons like Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. There are of course exceptions to this team building approach, and a good example would be Hu Tao and Childe, who are both utilizing their elemental skills for the biggest damage output, but once the duration is over and their bursts are used up, you really want to be switching over to someone else, and for this matter, they could be either used together or as two different duos in the same team, since they don't leave lingering elemental reactions on the field, and their partners could take care of that for them. Of course, there's still Geo and Animo, who don't necessarily rely on reactions, but care about other things like elemental resonance bonuses or increased energy recharge, so it's not always about elemental reactions. Now let's not forget that there's still going to be two other teammates in there that try to power up whatever you're trying to accomplish with the duo, and now would be the perfect time to take a look at what we're dealing with. Once you're done on deciding which two characters you will be using as your foundation for the team, it's now time to add the remaining members. And these characters are usually someone who can be mixed and matched with basically any team, and quite often come from either the Animo or Geo elements. But without mentioning other extremely obvious choices like Xiangling, who is the godlike support character, you could also simply put more characters of the same element into the team, so that you have more opportunities to trigger your elemental reactions, which becomes even more crucial if you're running Melt or Vaporize amplifying reactions. Also, you can see some of the showcase characters and their artifacts if you follow us on Twitter, so make sure to check out the link in the description. One more thing to mention here would be that if you notice a tag team member works really well, chances are they're also going to be superb when added as a third or final character into your team build. So someone like Beidou or Xiangling are great choices, since both of them generate abilities that can stay on the field of the character you switch to, and all it takes is to swap in, activate the skill or burst, and swap out. Now that we have the basics out of the way, it's time to take a look at some of the top compositions. There's a lot of exciting duo teams to look at, and the first one would be Razor together with either Xingqiu or Kaya. And this is probably the most achievable team composition, since these are 4-star characters, and Kaya himself comes as a starter, and in fact, you can base the team around Kaya the other way around, since he also works well together with Xingqiu. But coming back to our Wolf Boy, the electro charge reactions aren't going to be game-changing, but the damage output you're going to be getting from Xingqiu's Hydro Blades, combined together with Razor's powerful Claymore attacks, should make up for it. But if you're interested in leaving your enemies open to even more vulnerable attacks, then going with Razor and Kaya is a great budget option, especially if you can get enough energy recharge for Kaya to maintain his burst for Razor's attacks, which shouldn't be too hard since the cost is already low for the burst. Now for the duo that focuses on amplifying reactions, Diluc together with Chongyun is an interesting and powerful combo, since nearly everyone who builds Diluc focuses on obtaining full Crimson Witch artifact set that brings out the most damage when Diluc unleashes his pyro attacks, which actually works out great with our Exorcist, since when he puts down the cryo field from his skill, it will only infuse Diluc's normal attacks with cryo, but won't be able to override any of the pyro attacks coming from the weapon. So you're essentially giving yourself a consistent supply of melt reactions as long as you can stay inside the field. Now this next one is really fun because Childe together with Xiangling requires a bit more practice, but you can basically take advantage of Xiangling's elemental mastery she gains from her ascension, and possibly other teammates who will boost it, and then use her Pyronado and Guba together with Childe's Hydro Blades for that awesome vape reaction damage. There's also Xiao, who already on his own deals a ton of damage, but if you can put him together with anyone that provides a shield or helps him with energy regeneration like Sucrose, is even better, which is basically very similar to Ningguang, who loves any Geo teammate, but especially Zhongli, that lets her take advantage of the powerful Team Resonance bonus. And these are but a few showcase duo character combos to go after, which can be modified with any remaining party members that surprisingly result into your regular team swap composition, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and helps you arrive to your final team easier than by thinking of each character individually. Working on a team that's based off of 2 characters is nothing new, and in fact, even in the early days, or for this matter, early game, the common team building approach is to use 2 characters of the same elements so that they can help each other generate energy faster, and then use the 3rd character, or even the 4th, for some elemental reactions. And the biggest thing that has changed since this approach to team building is the fact that energy regeneration is not as important once you reach the end game, and you can get more of it from artifact substats, so the emphasis has shifted towards 2 characters that first can complement each other with their elemental reactions and abilities, while the rest of the team either gives even more fuel for their reactions, or provides more general stuff like elemental mastery, or lingering damage like Fischl's Raven, or Albedo's Solar Isotoma Flower. Not to mention in the age of shields, going for this instead of healing has also become a popular choice, due to recent introduction like Hu Tao or Staff of Homa. Either way, it's a bit nostalgic to look back on those early days of team compositions, and it's a great example of how different early to mid-game feels when compared to endgame team building strategies. Building a dream team is not an easy task, so using a more simple approach of just 2 characters as your foundation can be a great way to find a composition that you will use for consistent damage output. Obviously, the thing to focus on would be elemental reactions first, and then either enhancing them with more team members of the same elements, or getting something else that will benefit the 2 main characters. And hopefully, once you have enough resources for up to 8 characters, you can have your 2 very own teams full of swappable and strong team members that will be ready to crush the Spiral Abyss, but until then, a team of 2 can be a great stepping stone into the endgame for team builds. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel by enabling the bell notification on, and also make sure to gently press the like button. And don't forget you can get your daily fix of Genshin by following us on Twitter, link in the description. Thank you for checking out the video, and see you next time.